Today, we're about to unlock a story that isn't written in books, but in our very blood. We're going to dive into how the ancient survival secrets of our ancestors are literally coded right into our DNA. Let's get into it. So let me just start with this one question. What if your DNA is basically a living history book detailing every single battle your ancestors fought and won against disease? Well, it turns out it absolutely is. All across Africa, the very continent where humanity's story began, there's been this long, intense history of conflict with pathogens. And that struggle has edged some truly unique adaptations right into our genes, sculpting our immune systems in ways we're only just starting to wrap our heads around. So our story begins right where humanity's story begins, in Africa. But it's not just the cradle of humanity. It's the cradle of our immune evolution. It's like a living library of our shared past. And look, the sheer scale of this is kind of hard to believe, because humanity has lived and evolved in Africa for so much longer than anywhere else on Earth. The continent is this incredible living archive of genetic variation. And this diversity, it's more than just a cool scientific fact. It's the raw material for evolution itself. It's an entire library of survival strategies. So you're probably wondering, how does this change even happen? Well, the key idea here is something called evolutionary pressure. Just imagine a constant, invisible force, like viruses and bacteria, that's been testing our defenses for thousands and thousands of years. Anyone with a slight genetic advantage was just more likely to survive and pass that trait on. Over countless generations, that pressure literally sculpts our DNA. All right, let's look at a perfect example of how this works in the real world, the genetic arms race against malaria. For our ancestors, this wasn't just some disease. It was one of the most powerful evolutionary forces on the entire planet. And this is where you see one of evolution's famous trade-offs. The sickle cell trait is a classic example. If you inherit just one copy of the gene, you get this amazing protection against malaria. But if you get two copies, one from each parent, it leads to sickle cell disease. So it's a powerful defense for sure, but it comes at a potentially very high cost, a real double-edged sword. But here's the cool part. Evolution almost never puts all its eggs in one basket. So beyond sickle cell, different populations developed a whole bunch of other defenses. You've got things like G6PD deficiency or variations in what's called the Duffy antigen, which is basically a doorway on our red blood cells. These are all different genetic tricks that make it tougher for the malaria parasite to get a foothold. It's like a whole toolbox of adaptations. And you have to remember this. This is absolutely crucial. This isn't just ancient history we're talking about. The battle is still going on today. As malaria evolves to resist our drugs, human populations are still under pressure to adapt. That evolutionary dance just keeps on going. Okay, so now let's jump forward a bit to a much more modern pathogen. Because this part really shows us that human evolution isn't some dusty old relic of the past. We can literally watch it happening in real time in response to viruses like HIV. Right here, scientists made a mind-blowing discovery. They found a genetic mutation called CCR5 delta 32. And it turns out, people with this mutation have cells that HIV really struggles to get into, which can dramatically slow down the disease. It's like a built-in genetic shield sculpted by the pressures of very recent epidemics. Of course, a discovery this big brings up some really important questions, right? As we uncover these life-saving adaptations, we have to stop and think about how we do this research. How do we make sure that any medicines developed from this knowledge benefit everybody, especially the communities where these adaptations first showed up? It's a tricky conversation for sure, but one we absolutely have to have. But the story gets even more wild when you really zoom in. These adaptations aren't just against huge global diseases like malaria or HIV. No, they are often incredibly specific to local environments and the unique bugs found there. Okay, check this out. In parts of West Africa, you find these variants of a gene called APOL1 that offer protection against sleeping sickness. Or, along the Nile Valley, people have evolved specific immune responses to fight the parasite that causes schistosomiasis. Each one of these is its own unique evolutionary story, a testament to communities' struggle and survival over centuries. And let's be really clear about this. We wouldn't know a thing about these incredible hyperlocal defenses without African scientists leading the charge in their own communities. Supporting this local science and helping it connect with the world through collaboration is absolutely critical if we want to understand and preserve this amazing genetic heritage. So, what's the big takeaway here? Why does all of this ancient history matter for you and me today? Well, it's because these stories of survival hold the keys to the future of medicine. We are literally learning from the wisdom of our ancestors. I mean, this lays out the whole roadmap, doesn't it? The pathway from a basic discovery to an actual drug. First, scientists find a protective gene. Then they have to figure out exactly how it works. What's the biological trick? And finally, they can use that knowledge to design brand new, targeted medicines and vaccines that basically mimic nature's own solutions. And that could benefit all of humanity. And all of this is building toward this incredibly exciting future of what's called precision medicine. Just imagine treatments that are customized not just for you, but for your specific genetic background and your ancestral strengths. We're moving away from one-size-fits-all medicine and into a world of truly personalized care. So that leaves us with one final huge question. Africa's genetic diversity is this priceless library of human survival. By studying it, by preserving it, we're not just looking into the past, we're actually finding a roadmap for our own future. What other incredible secrets are just waiting there in our DNA, ready to help us face the health challenges